Hey folks, my name is Jax. In this guide, we're going to touch on the changes coming with 9.15, which is a really quick update. We'll look at the Mythic Plus talent builds that you'll see right up here on the screen now if you want to jump straight to that. We'll also discuss Legendaries and recommended Covenants, even though with 9.15 we're going to be able to swap between Covenants easily without the weekly quest line that we need to work through. So, without further ado, Resto is still like a very versatile healer. It's really, for most players, a seasoned Resto Druid can push whether it's like Mythic raid content or Mythic Plus keys, no problem. Overall, I think they're in a great spot, like one of the best possible healers for Mythic Plus. Certainly their utility and coming with a battle res makes a huge difference. But I think additionally the damage that they're able to provide often gets overlooked. So absolutely worth keeping that in mind. You'll see we're going to recommend it with this build, but Heart of the Wild is a fantastic spell, allowing you to take on greater benefits. For us, that allows us to contribute actual meaningful damage to either the pack or the boss we're trying to burn down. So makes healing a fair bit more satisfying when you can drop some healing over time abilities on your group and be able to help burn that boss down. As far as like 9.15, we did see Blizzard materially improve the number of like AoE restrictions that we had. A number of abilities were limited with the number of targets they could damage. Absolutely none of that applies to Resto. If you are jumping into cat form, you'll notice a couple abilities have had a slight adjustment, but like we're still not talking substantial changes. Swipe and Brutal Slash for Feral have had their AoE caps basically extended past 5. So it'll be full damage up to 5 targets and then a soft cap from there. But overall, not a real material change. For us, Efflorescence has a new visual that's kind of fun if you're like living and breathing for that. If that's what you've been holding out for all of Shadowlands, you'll be pleased to see what the new ring looks like. But overall, we're not seeing like a significant change here in terms of build. Realistically, like the first thing that Blizzard tells us with the 9.15 changes for Druid is that we've got 4 new travel form appearances with the 2 color variations each to pick up. How about that? So, without spending a whole lot of time lamenting what's not changing, let's talk about what is. So, overall, our talent builds here. We're gonna stick in tier 1 with Scenario and Ward. Just makes a huge difference in terms of buffing up our tanks. Like Scenario and Ward is just too good in Mythic Plus to even consider the other 2 options. For tier 2, it's a utility line, so ultimately all 3 abilities could have a use. Renewal could be great for a panic button if you need that emergency heal. But Wild Charge is really what helps us from a mobility perspective the most. So that's why I'm recommending it here. Tier 3, Balance Affinity gives you a additional 5-yard extended reach for your damaging attacks. So absolutely something that you want to take advantage of. For me, it's the way to go. I've seen the odd healer continue to cat weave. I don't know if they're doing that just because they must have been weavers back in the day or what, but Feral's not in a tremendously overpowered spot right now, so stick with balance for the time being if you want to contribute meaningful damage. Tier 4, another utility line. For me, Heart of the Wild actually makes just a huge difference, but it really depends on what your group setup's like. If you're not able to credibly set up your group to be able to sustain their own health for a little bit, or if they're taking a ton of damage, you might not be able to actually contribute a whole lot of damage yourself with Heart of the Wild. So you might have to stick with Mighty Bash or Mass Entanglement. Really depends on what your cutting strategy is for the dungeon. Tier 5, you've got a couple choices here. Really, Soul of the Forest is the best choice if you're looking just from a, we'll call it like a healing perspective. But really, if you are more comfortable with the dungeons, which hopefully you're getting to that point in 9.15, or you're getting pretty pleased with the groups that you're playing with, you can go with Incarnation Tree of Life. It's a nice panic button if you're feeling a little bit of pain in terms of just panic healing, or if you think that like the overall composition that you're playing with will require a little bit of like emergency spot break-in work. So if you're looking to completely min-max, Soul of the Forest is where you want to go. Incarnation is where you want to go if you're feeling that the key could be a little risky. Tier 5, you want to go with Spring Blossoms. It's got nice passive healing and provides more healing over time for your mastery, which means you have higher DPS uptime because you've got to focus on your own heals less, right? Great way to look at it. In terms of Tier 7, Photosynthesis is the go-to. Really, when Life Bloom is on yourself, your periodic heals heal for 20% faster. That's absolutely the way you'll go every single time. Flourish starts to look good if you are going to have some solid DPS windows and higher keys, so you can jump between them, but those are your two choices that you'd have in terms of Tier 7. Now, what's really interesting, Kyrian is only used about 3% of the time from a Covenant perspective. You're seeing Night Fae 4/5 of the time, and I don't know if it's just because Druid has such a great affinity with Convoke that everyone just assumes that this is the best Covenant for the class. But if you really want to see, both Kyrian and Necrolord have absolutely great results on higher keys. So definitely check out a couple high-end streamers or look to swap around, because now with 9.15 we can jump across Covenants really easy. Swap around a little bit and see if this is the right kind of build for you. Alright folks, outside of that, we'll touch quite briefly on Legendaries. Really what you want to run is something like Verdant Infusion. It's really going to help when you have heavy damage. It's going to be extremely helpful to help sustain your group. However, if you're going with more of a damage-oriented approach, you can go with the legendary Circle of Life and Death, and it absolutely drives up your DPS throughput. And if you're more comfortable with just some spot heals and you've got some confidence in the group you're running with, it works out beautifully as far as Resto works. Alright folks, that is the Resto Druid breakdown in terms of what we're focused on and what we're excited about in 9.15. Drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you like, what you dislike, what you want to see different about the spec or even the class, and let me know what you think of the new content. Alright, enjoy yourselves. Later.